Kia ora. Thank you so much for joining International Open Week. My name's Ryan and I'm one of the international managers here at New Zealand's leading research-led university, the University of Auckland. And so I'm here today with our wonderful student guests who are going to give you an insight to what life is really like here at the University of Auckland. Now, before we get today's session started, we just want to take a few moments to remember Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II today. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining today. And so we have Ankeeta, Bing and Malina. So thank you so much for joining us. And so what I've got here is a few questions, and I hope you can give all of our viewers who are joining us here today what life is actually like here at the university, and why you've probably come to New Zealand and decided to study here at the University of Auckland. Cool, so thank you so much for all joining us here today for today's session. And so we're going to get started with today's questions. Now, before we do that, let's take a moment so you guys can introduce yourselves to our wonderful viewers who are joining us here today. So, Malina, if you'd like to start and introduce yourself, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so my name's Malina. I'm originally from Germany. I study law and psychology at the University of Auckland. I'm in my 5th year, so hopefully my last year. And yeah.
Perfect, thank you so much, Malina. And Bing, over to you.
My full name is actually Yubing, but I shortened it now to Bing for everyone. I kind of like it. It's like a search engine. I am an international student from China. I'm currently on my 3rd-year PhD in chemistry, trying to finish up. And yeah, been living here ever since I got here. So
awesome, thank you so much. And Ankeeta, over to you.
Hi, I am Ankeeta Karmakar. I am from India and I have finished Masters of Earthquake Engineering last month. And now I have the PhD offer, and very soon I'm going to start with PhD.
Awesome, awesome, fantastic. Well, let's get started with these questions, because I know all of our viewers will be keen to hear how your journey started and why you possibly chose the University of Auckland. So can you tell us how you learned about the University of Auckland, Malina, and possibly why you decided to choose the University of Auckland out of all those universities you could possibly choose? Why did you pick the university?
Sure. So after high school, I went traveling around the world for like 2 years, and I spent like three months in New Zealand, traveling in my little van, backpacking. And I absolutely loved the country, but I didn't really know much about like the New Zealand culture and like the richness of New Zealand culture. And I didn't really think about studying at that point because I was just traveling. I then moved to Canada, then I was like, okay, I should probably think about, university and what I should be doing with my life. And I still kept remembering New Zealand because it just took such a special place in my heart. So I looked into universities. I knew I wanted to study law. And then obviously the University of Auckland has a really, really great reputation. So yeah, I looked into funding, I looked into application, and I just started enrolling, yeah.
Amazing. And Bing, a little bit about yourself, about why you chose the University of Auckland and what brought you here.
Yeah, so actually, after I finished my master's in the US, I went back to China, and my parents and I, we decided we want to try something different, not just explore the university, but New Zealand as a whole, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's great because there's such a difference in story. Obviously, you went around in your van, and obviously you making the decision, maybe not even possibly being here. So it's quite a big risk. But it's amazing that obviously you eventually came here and obviously having a fantastic time. So Ankeeta, over to you. So can you tell us, how you learned about the University of Auckland and why you ended up coming to the University of Auckland as well with your studies?
So I remember when I was in the 2nd year of my bachelor's, I wanted to do master's, but then life came hard on me, and then I went on to doing jobs in my country for 3 years. And then I was like, okay, now I have to do something serious with my life. And then I looked onto universities through QS ranking, and I found out that Civil and Environmental Department of University of Auckland is one of the reputed and venerated. So I had to give it a try, and then I was looking for the programs the university offers, and then I found Masters of Earthquake Engineering. So my native is high in seismicity, and I was like, no, I have to give it a try. And here I am, I have finished my master's, and I'm looking forward to PhD.
Excellent, fantastic. It's amazing, like all of your different stories and how different they are, and how you came to the conclusion, obviously, of coming here to the University of Auckland. At some point, I believe I studied abroad a very, very long time ago. And I think I went through similar experiences, apart from having the opportunity to travel around in a van and make sure this is where I wanted to position myself. But anyway, I've got some other questions for you guys. So Bing, I think we'll start with you with this question, if that's okay. So why did you choose your current programme, and what do you hope to do after your studies? I know you've probably had quite a long time, obviously, coming up to finishing your PhD. So why did you choose it, and what do you want to do afterwards?
So part of it is I think I wanted to challenge myself because when I finished bachelor's, there was part of me thinking I wanted to do more than what I could. So I actually came here to start with a master's and then move on to PhD. But I think between master's and PhD, because I did enjoy my master's, it was 2 years. 1 year it was just coursework, and the second year being research. And I really liked the feeling being in the lab. I think that's what pushed me to be like, hey, maybe try the PhD, challenge yourself, and see if you can do it. Because, like my parents always say, like if you do it with 100%, you won't regret it. And I want to have that feeling by the end of the finish. And it just, I don't know, having a PhD is kind of nice, I guess. That's also just a little bit selfish reason. So yeah.
No, awesome. Thank you so much. And Ankeeta, yeah, I mean, when people are studying abroad, sometimes, yes, you want to study the program, and yes, you can't wait to be in the lab. But then it's, what do I actually want to do after my studies? Why am I investing all of this time, effort, and finances in a lot of cases to do, PhD or masters or undergraduate studies? So what do you want to achieve after your studies? Where do you want to go?
So yeah, like traveling to a foreign country takes a lot of effort, money, of course, and you need to think how you are going to survive and how you are going to manage everything on your own, because your parents won't be there to make food for you. Come on, like you have to make your own food.
I wish.
You have to do your own laundry. So it's a huge decision, and I wanted to do something for myself, which I wasn't able to do back in my country. So I wanted to do a good research in terms of Masters of Earthquake Engineering and PhD, and also quality of education. Like University of Auckland is one of the reputed, and who doesn't want to be a part of it? And when I thought that I'm going to a foreign country, I had to look through the university's ranking, and that's what drive my decision to come to New Zealand. And this is what I think, that quality of education is the thing that I was looking for. And yes, here I am,
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then after, obviously, you finished your PhD, which congratulations for getting into your PhD. I remember you were talking about potentially you really admire your lecturers, and you can see yourself doing that. I mean, obviously you want good grades, right? But is that something you see yourself doing as well?
Yeah, because as I mentioned that I was in the industry for about 3 years back in my country. Now I think that whenever I look into my faculties and the way they teach students like us, I feel like that is what I'm going to do in my future. That gives me a drive, like an energy to follow my passion. And it feels great to be the faculty, because you are teaching students, you are doing the research, and then you are also looking for assignments and other ways for different types of research. So that's what I think, that being a faculty would give me the happiness of my life. And I'm like looking forward to be a faculty and not be into the industry. I hope I can do that in coming years.
Well, good luck. Good luck to you for that.
Thank you so much.
And Malina, over to you. I mean, obviously you've given us a really good indication, how and why you got to the decision of coming to University of Auckland. But again, after your studies, you must have some vision, something you want to accomplish and achieve or go into. So it'd be great if you can share that.
Yeah, so I enrolled into law, especially law, but like with like this big dream of like, I was traveling and I saw so many things where I was like, this is not quite right. Like, so like I've got a really, really strong sense or passion for like injustices and like, working towards like more social justice. So that was like my driver to actually enroll. And then obviously now I'm in my last year and I'm doing like all my electives and I can really center them around, human rights, international law. And that's the area I really want to get into. And especially with like the New Zealand jurisdiction, I can work in countries like the UK, the US, Canada, like South Africa. But I really want to work in international law, maybe human rights law, maybe for an NGO. Definitely more traveling on the horizon. I've definitely caught the travel bug. So maybe get back into my van. But yeah, so international law is like the big goal.
And that's amazing. I mean, what you're saying there, that with the jurisdiction of New Zealand and what's recognised after you've done your studies, that you can take your degree and take it all around the world. I mean, that's just such a...
Yeah, it gives you so much of a heads up, because would I have studied in Germany, I wouldn't have been able to do that because it doesn't translate so easily. And obviously with the Commonwealth countries, that's such a big like advantage that we have compared to other students. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So now I've got another question for you all here, which I think is really relevant for all of our attendees who are joining us here today, who might also be thinking about studying abroad, coming to New Zealand and coming to study at the University of Auckland. And once you've got that application and maybe you've got that offer and you've got that exciting email which says we're delighted and congratulated to give you an offer of a place here at the University of Auckland, then the real work starts, which is how do you prepare yourself for New Zealand? How do you prepare yourself for studies? So Bing, maybe we'll go to you first. How did you prepare whilst you're in China?
Prior to New Zealand, I've already been an international student elsewhere. So after getting, the acceptance letter, the first thing was like, okay, check the weather. What is that? What do I need to pack for clothing? And then, because that's the most important part, we want to be prepared when you land. You don't want to get rained on, or if something happens, you have to be ready. So we check the weather, and then we also have to figure out accommodation. And that's the part in which like the university was really helpful, because I was kind of worried, and I actually called the university, and they answered the question really fast, and also emailed me, so I was able to get accommodation within like a week or so. So it was weather stuff, accommodation, and then preparing cooking for myself. I have to prepare food and stuff like that. So it's like, to be honest, I didn't prepare much for like the study stuff. I just took my laptop and then came over. But I think it's important to look at stuff, the things you need to live with, like I said, clothing, food-wise, all of that. I think that was the most, the things I researched the most on to spend the time on.
Yeah, clothing was my research areas as well before coming. But another thing, come on, like I arrived here during the months of winter, and I didn't, I didn't bring much of my clothes because my luggage weight was limited. So I had a big trouble here to manage my winter clothing, because once you come to New Zealand or Auckland, you don't get time to quest over the outlets that provide winter clothes, because you don't want to spend much more money on clothing at that time. We are students, come on.
We don't have much.
So that was an issue for me. Another thing that I did wrong was not bringing an universal adapter, a charger. It's like I checked into my hotel, and then I realized, oh shoot, my mobile charge is like 30%, and I don't have the universal charger. What should I do? So I just somehow managed to sleep the night, and the next morning I was like, okay, I need to buy. So I just found the nearest store, and I found the universal charger. So that you bring your universal charger.
That's such a good advice.
Bring your universal charger, because European countries and Asian countries charging ports are different than New Zealand, so that should be to-do list.
And we don't charge for these tips, guys, so this is the perfect tip. So bring your universal adapter, number one. But Malina, obviously with in your van, you've been prepping seems like your whole life for New Zealand. But I wonder if you could, if you've got any tips or how you prepared as well for your studies in New Zealand.
Yeah, so when I got the offer, like the acceptance into my course, I was still living in Canada. So I was like, I remember like calling my parents and saying, hey, by the way, I'm going to come home in a few months and then grab my stuff and then leaving again. And they're like, okay. So I remember I knew that I wanted to find a part-time job ASAP when I moved to New Zealand, because also that's a way, to make friends, because I'm very extroverted and I love having people around me, like meeting like new people. So I prepared my CV. That was probably one of the biggest things I did, because so important to have just a CV that you can hand out. I had a universal adapter, which was good. But yeah, I just packed my bags. I brought a backpack and a suitcase. I had 2 pieces of luggage. So definitely bring your backpack, because New Zealand's amazing to travel around, if that's what you like. Yeah, and then it was just a mindset thing, like catching up with family. I was lucky enough to have made friends here in New Zealand, and they let me stay for like a couple of weeks when I first arrived, which was great. And they picked me up from the airport, which was great. But yeah, that was probably like my biggest thing. And then, as you said, like bringing the laptop, and that's probably as much study prep as I did. But yeah, definitely the CV, and that's helped me. Like I found a job within like 3 or 4 days. So.
Oh wow, that's amazing. But you made sure you got your cooking lessons in with your parents before you left, right?
How's your cooking now?
Yeah.
I mean, started shaky, but I think I think it's been good. It's good.
Homing down on those skills.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you'll have to cook for all of us at some point, and we'll be the judge.
Ooh, no pressure.
Yes, we know the time and date.
Yeah, sure.
And venue.
So when people are obviously thinking about coming to study in New Zealand, and Malina, obviously you had a great opportunity of being here first, then going back, and then coming back to New Zealand. So this is probably more for Bing and Ankeeta, this question. But if you hadn't been to New Zealand, it would be great to know what your impressions were before obviously coming, and when you first arrived. I'm sure everyone has their own, their thought process of what New Zealand actually is all about. But it'd be great to hear what that was, and then how maybe you were pleasantly surprised when you did arrive as well to New Zealand. So we'll start with you, Bing.
Sure. My dad's a photographer, so he would like to browse things on National Geographic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the attraction, the reason that my parents pushed me, or go to New Zealand, is they've seen the natural beauty of it, whether it's in North Island and South Island. My dad saw a lot of pictures, and they kind of just like give me a PowerPoint little presentation thing. And honestly, that's what kind of was exciting me because in China and the U.S., I lived in both bigger cities area, right? You don't really get to see none of the natural environment, and I wanted to see that, because we are getting more buildings everywhere, and it's rare to see a beautiful place that's untouched by industry and such like that. So I think that was one of the major driving force too for me. Like I wanted to see what I haven't in a long time, which is something that's natural, something that is nice.
Amazing. And then when you arrived, were those pictures real?
Oh yeah. I mean, the best thing is I do also like Lord of the Rings. So when I first arrived in the airport, I saw like a dwarf statue that was in the airport, and that was the first picture I took when I arrived. I was like, hey, and I sent it to my friends. But yeah, it was great. I came into the city, but then I actually did some traveling to South Island, and I think that was one of the few times I said to myself, like, I really want to stay here, because
goosebumps.
It was just, like I said, I can't even describe it. It was just that that feeling hit me, and I was like, wow. That was it. So it definitely lived up to what I wanted to see. Yeah.
Amazing. And I'm sure we'll definitely talk about the South Island and trips and travel soon, because I'm sure you've all got some fantastic tips as well, and definitely traveling around in your van and where to stop and see. But Ankeeta, yourself, I'm sure before you came to New Zealand and before you thought about the University of Auckland, what was your impression or thoughts? What did you think about New Zealand? What was running through your mind?
Running through my mind, it was it was overwhelming, because I've applied for my visa, and within 20 to 25 days I got my visa, and I couldn't, like process much because I was just in touch with my supervisors and I had no friends here. So, and I used, as I mentioned earlier, it was just the winter clothing and other stuff. But one thing I really want to say, which I didn't expect, that is when I came here, of course, I arrived at 10:45 p.m. So it was night, I couldn't see much things. So the next day when I went on to buy my universal charger, I saw that the terrain is hilly. It's like you need to climb some portions to get to other places. So I tripped off myself and I fell on the street because I didn't expect that. Yeah, I was just climbing up the hill and was going.
Lucky you're not at law school because it's all the way downhill.
I belong from a place where the terrain is plain, it's flat. But here, I couldn't, and doing grocery is kind of difficult because you need to like put 2 bags on your hand and you're climbing. But what I feel is that these things are teaching me how to deal my life on my own, because back in India, I was with my parents. So majority of the things were done by them. I didn't do much of the thing. These things have prepared me well for my life. Now I am well equipped and well, like prepared. As I mentioned, that in 20-25 days, I didn't think much about it. But so these things, after arriving Auckland, I was like, what, really? And other thing is that in Auckland, the city life is also calm. It's calm and serene, like back in India or maybe China perhaps, it's like the city life is chaotic. In here, the city is also calm. Like you can, like you can hear your own breathing. So that calmness is good for me. So these 2 things have been,
a welcome surprise.
Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. So now I think this is a really nice opportunity, because it seems that you would have all had some probably amazing experiences since you've been to the university or travelled New Zealand. So it would be great, and I'm sure you've got lots, but if you could have one very memorable moment, and I know you've probably shared your own, Bing, but Malina, I mean, you've had a wealth of experience across New Zealand, but if you had sort of one incredibly memorable moment that you'd probably want to share with our attendees who are really listening in to really decide, like, is this where I want to come? Is this where I want to come and study? What could you share?
It's very difficult. Probably, I think I was really like overwhelmed, like positively overwhelmed by the friendliness of people. Like, like back home, we don't have the culture of you're talking to the person at the checkout at the supermarket, or, you're talking to your neighbors, or you're talking to just strangers. So I remember when I was in my van, traveling around, my van was a cheap van. It broke down on the side of the road, and I was like, oh, here we go. Because in Germany, people are quite busy thinking about themselves, and it's quite like a really, really fast-paced place. And New Zealand, it's like, as Ankeeta said, like quiet and calm. So I was like, okay, well, what am I doing now? Pulled up on the side of the road. But within like a minute, some stranger came over to me and was like, oh, you all right? Like, how are you going? I'm like, okay, well, my van broke down. Please help. So, he helped me. And then actually, I kept on traveling and then went to the next biggest city and then saw him again. And I was like, oh, thank you, by the way, my van's okay now. Well, it wasn't okay.
Oh, no.
I tried to start it. It didn't start again. And I was like, hey, sorry, my van's not starting again. So he helped jumpstart my van again, and then my van was fine. But, just this like friendliness and like, just, it's so easy to approach people in New Zealand, and it's so easy to, get a conversation going no matter where you go, if it's at uni, if it's at work, if it's at a bar, and people are like genuinely interested in you.
Helpful.
And helpful. And also, sorry, this is like 1.5 experiences, but I did a skydive because New Zealand is really like famous for bungee jumping and skydive. So if you're like one of the students listening, like an adrenaline seeker, definitely do a skydive. It was so cool. So that's my 1.5.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think I've done one skydive.
Did you like it?
I won't do it again. I will not do it again. Yes, I will not do it again. But it was an amazing experience, and you're so right. I mean, New Zealand just has so much to offer for if you want to do those sort of outdoor activities or extreme sports. There's just so much to do. Bing, I mean, I know you've obviously give us, you know, your family gave you a presentation, and it was, and then you saw the real stuff yourself.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know, whether it was the South Island or whether it was your time here at the University of Auckland, is there a memorable moment that sticks out in your mind?
I guess two things. One's going off Manila's thoughts on people being friendly. When I first came here, you know, my supervisor did help me to connect with some students, and when I arrived, he welcomed me, and then he took me around because we're all science students. He showed me around the uni, and I met his friends, and even to this day, they're some of my best friends. So that friendliness and that helpfulness has been a good feeling. Like it feels nice to have people that are there to be for you and being very genuine. I mean, yeah, sometimes words can, you know, be a little bit harsh, you know, but it's always nice to, you know, have people like that to, you know, give you a pat in the back or like, hey, you'll be fine or something like that. So that's pretty important. The other thing is like the South Island travel. Definitely, if you can, have a backpack trip or a road trip.
Bring the backpack.
Like road trip is definitely like you must do it. Because like the best memory I had was it was the tree in Wanaka, like that single tree in the middle of the lake. It was sunset. A lot of people were there. And it was only like 5 to 10 minutes. Well, we waited 30 minutes for the sun to go down, and the actual shooting was like 5 to 10 minutes. But that 5 to 10 minutes, it's still, if I close my eyes, I can still see it.
Visualize.
Yeah, just the light, the scenery, and everyone was shouting because it's like, oh, guys, move out of the... There was a married couple there that was trying to take pictures. They were like, oh, move. But once that scenery set, it was just quiet, and you can't... Yeah, people... camera shutter, but it was just that peacefulness and beauty that just overwhelms everything that was there.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, overall, whether it's the people here or the scenery have provided me overwhelming of friendliness and welcomeness, and it's great. Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. And Ankeeta, over to you.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from obviously tripping up, going uphill, or forgetting a universal charger, what would you say is your most memorable experience since being here?
Unlike Malina and Bing, I didn't get an opportunity to travel. Of course, I don't have friends. Come on, guys, make me a friend.
Just come with me in my van. I've got a better version of a van now.
Yeah, we are going.
We won't break down.
Maybe this weekend. Yeah, we are gonna this weekend. So the thing is that one thing is very memorable is how I got this badge. And this badge is representation of international students that the University of Auckland stands with international students. So this event that I got to be there was the Prime Minister of New Zealand welcoming the international student, and that was one hell of an event because I didn't expect in my life that this is going to happen with me. It was such an amazing event. I got to meet the Prime Minister and the VC, the Vice Chancellor, and all you guys were there, and the international team of University of Auckland. They are such amazing people, and they are one of the best people. So that is an event that I will always cherish forever. So yes, that event was really a groundbreaking and extravagant event for me in my life.
And it's still early days, so I mean, there's so many more memories for all of you guys to have. But yeah, that was an amazing. I see the pictures of the event. It looked absolutely fantastic.
I still feel surreal. Did it happen to me?
Yeah, right. Like when we were standing with the Prime Minister.
Both were present. And that was the memorable event for me, and will always be. I don't think anything can replace that. But maybe I'm gonna take a road trip. Maybe a road trip might change that. But yes.
So you're all in agreement that you're making memories whilst being here then?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Yeah. And you can never, like, you can't make memories without making that first step, right? Yeah. So I feel like you got to step out of your comfort zone and you're going to be rewarded for it so much.
Awesome. So we're coming towards the end of our session, and I'm sure there's just so many more questions. And what's fantastic is during today's live session, for all of our attendees, we hope that you've been answering your questions in the chat box. And what we will be doing at the end of the session is going through those questions with our wonderful students who are here today as well. So do keep your questions coming through in the chat box, and we'll get to them very, very shortly. But a couple more questions that I do have, because I know for you guys who are coming here, and some of you have touched on this already, is maybe supporting yourselves whilst you are studying with some part-time work. So it'd be great to learn like how you went about that, and maybe what you are actually doing now. So maybe Malina, if you landed a job in 4 or 5 days, so you seem like the expert. So.
Yeah. Okay. So my job story is a little bit all over the show, because I knew when I started uni that was my chance to try all these weird random jobs that I probably won't do once I graduate, especially with a law degree. So yeah, I worked back home in Germany. I worked in hospitality since I was, I think, 14 at my uncle's restaurant, and they're workers. And so you've got your university community, but you also have your international work community, which I think is really great. So yeah, since then, right now, maybe skip these 5 years. So right now, 5 years later, I teach English to Japanese high school students, which is such a, I get that what you said about, teaching and how it just makes you feel real warm and fuzzy. I just love teaching. It's big passion. I work in marketing as well. So that's just a job that I do on the side, nothing to do with my degree, but I think it's just a really great skill to have. And also New Zealand, obviously Auckland is the city of sails. So I work on yachts. So every year during the summer, I get to go out and have the greatest office of the city. It's a boat. And yeah, so we do charters and away charters. And obviously, that's also just a chance to see New Zealand's natural beauty. And again, connect with lots of people, and yeah, you get to meet lots of random people, lots of perks. I got to go see Chris Rock a couple of weeks ago because his friends were in our charter.
I'm having goosebumps.
Yeah, so it's the things that, especially in New Zealand, it's so many boats, it's very specific to Auckland as well. And I would have never done this at home. So yeah, lots of different part-time jobs. And also it's actually, if you put yourself out there, really easy to land a job. And I think, especially hospitality, it's a job that gives you so many skills that you don't learn in many other jobs, anything customer facing, because you have to learn how to talk to people, you have to speak English, which at the beginning, I remember I couldn't understand half of what my customers were saying. And it's just really, I think, really good for your development and another step into emerging into that New Zealand culture.
Yeah, once you put yourself out there, it will be within a few days you are gonna get, because even when I arrived, in just 1.5 months, I got a job in retail. So I was working in a restaurant, and now, of course, I don't do that work now anymore. I'm working at the university as well, a uni job, as well as I am a research assistant. So you just need to put yourself out there. It's a bit of networking, of course, and that networking is provided by your professors once you get in touch with them, and as well as the international team of the University of Auckland. So I got in touch with them, and they had some extra nice job opportunities for me. I remember one time I had 2 jobs with me, and I had to choose which one to go for. So yeah, you just need to put yourself out there to find a job. And yes, Auckland has a lot of opportunities. So once you are there, you can do it.
I think that's the great thing about where the city campus is located as well. I mean, you're literally right in the heart of the city. So yes, obviously there's campus jobs, stuff that you can do at the University of Auckland, but then 2 minutes walk, you're right in the city, right? And you're in amongst the jungle of Auckland, which is amazing. So you've been a PhD student here for some time. So what are you doing?
Well, so to be honest, I'm quite lucky because my parents and I, we were saving money to gear me towards university. So I did have 3 jobs back in undergrad, but when
Yeah.
I came here for master's and PhD, I just strictly tried to work on that.
Okay.
However, I do know friends who, when they were doing their bachelor's or whatnot, they also like job opportunities. Like, I'm a gamer. I hang out with friends who like to game, and some of them found places like interviews with EB Games or other gaming
Yep.
places. They just literally walk in and get a job, and well, not as easy as that, but pass the interview, put yourself out there, and I think that's the most important. Like, even the simplest or the oddest job you think of, it will still give you some good experience. Especially, you have to interact with people. I mean, as much as sometimes I'm an introvert, it is nice to, ramp up your skills in communications to get your thought across, because as human beings, we are social animals. We need to get through that. But so that's job wise. But like, what I have to do is, with PhD, I was luckily to able to get a stipend from my supervisor.
Excellent.
And what I do now is I have an Excel spreadsheet monthly that calculates how much money I spend on every single thing, so I know how much I save. So I think if you are lucky also that don't really need a side job, make sure you can manage your money well. Because sometimes you're like, oh, I have so much money, I'm gonna spend it out. And then you're just like, oh no, I have to pay bills now. And you have like nothing. So I think it's very important that you do manage your money well by the end of it, to know how much you're spending and how much you can save. Just to prepare for the future a little bit like that.
That's
So,
a great idea.
Excel spreadsheet.
Can you send me your
Yeah, make sure.
your spreadsheet?
Yeah, I just have it like categories like shopping, food, like eat out, snacks. I have like everything down. It's just nice to keep everything in categories.
Yeah.
Just kind of like that.
No, that's fantastic. Well, I think we're coming towards the end of this part of the session, but I do have one more question for you all, which we've actually touched on quite a few times, which is if there was a couple of tips that you could give to students before coming. And I know we've got, definitely make sure you've got your CV ready, definitely make sure that you've got a universal charger, but it would be great to, if you could have 1 or 2 things that you could really think that would help our viewers who are joining us here today, before they obviously make that decision to study abroad and come to New Zealand and a university, what would it be? So, Malina, I'm going to go with you first, so no pressure. And we don't charge for these tips, so it's all good.
You can Venmo us later. No, so I think mine are, apart from all the, things like the CV and whatnot, I think it's more like a mindset thing for me. Because, all these things, CV, adapter you can buy, CV you can make, but I think it's like a mindset thing because, for some people, like for some of you out there who probably maybe never lived away from home, never like lived away from your own country, it's a big step. And I think people underestimate how much of a big step it is. You're basically packing up your life and moving to a different place. So I think it's like, it's such a brave decision. So like, be open-minded, try talking to people. Like, yes, you might approach 5 people and they might not be your best friends, but then the 6th person might turn out, how you said, like you connected to people and they might turn out to become, I don't know, your bridesmaid at your wedding. You never know. So definitely keep an open mind and like just put yourself out there. It's super scary. And like, I'm very chatty now, but I never used to be. So it's just, constantly putting yourself out there and like, you have to step out of your comfort zone probably 100 times. But it's going to get rewarded, and like at the end, like you're going to have this first as international education, but then also you are going to grow so much as a person, and all these little things, that might seem really scary right now, you'll look back on them and be so proud. And I think, definitely, if you keep an open mindset and if you're just brave, which you are because you're watching this, you'll succeed.
Awesome. And Ankeeta?
I have one tip to say is that when I was back in India, no one was there to answer to my queries. So I kept on emailing the international team very often. Ryan is one person who dealt with my questions and all the serious questions. So yes, ask as much as questions you like, because if you are not asking the questions, you are not getting your answers. So I want to say to all the people or all the prospects or the candidates who are willing to apply to the university, go for it and ask the questions. If you are not asking them, no one is going to help you and you are not getting your answers. So we have this international team, such wonderful people. They are all on the computers answering to our questions related to applications, scholarships, even part-time jobs. So for me, the tip is that always ask the questions, you will know what to do.
There's no such thing as a stupid question.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, they all need to be answered, and you know, it will help you with that courageous decision to come and study abroad. So no, that's a really good point. And Bing, final piece of advice, tip.
I mean, great answer. It's like you got to put yourself out there, and it's okay to be, to be afraid because you are taking that big step. And I think for me, I've been an international student since I was 13, and from all these years, I think it's a bit weird to say, but I think I want to say like it's okay to feel like crap from time to time. Like even now, during holidays, and COVID happened, and I haven't seen my family in 3 years, and I've been there longer times, but during holidays, especially Chinese holidays, right? I think I'll be fine, but I'm not, and that's always the thing. Like if you're not okay, it's all right because you're somewhere else. You're not with your family. You might feel like crap, and it's okay to feel like crap, but make sure that you let it out. Like, talk to your friends, talk to your family. It's okay not to be okay. But as long as you can understand that yourself, you'll be much better. Don't bottle it. Just know that it's all right.
It's one of the biggest part of being an international student.
Really
and I feel the
and
same thing.
There's so many people that feel the same way, but if you don't speak about it, like you never know.
Yeah.
Or maybe
I
that's
agree.
just like cry out one night. No
Yeah,
one's gonna
exactly.
know. Yeah, like I cried last night.
Like put up a movie, cry about it, or like if you're old enough, of course, go to a bar, have a drink,
have a
talk with the
drink.
bartender. But sorry, I said you are old enough. But the thing is, it's all right that it sucks. You will feel that.
I
and
think
it's okay.
I totally agree, and I think it's a normal part of studying abroad. It's the journey.
Yeah.
The journey is that you have your downs, but then you have your ups. And the great thing is because all of you here today, you've all come from different countries, different cultures, different places, but you're all here together, and you're all going through the same thing, and you all support each other, especially when you have those down times.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most amazing things that I found when I studied abroad, was all the international friends and people I met whilst coming, to a different country as well, which that stay with you for life, because as you said, they could be, well, not my bridesmaid at my wedding, well, not yet anyway, but it's just amazing, those memories, those people that you meet throughout your journey in your life really stay with you. Well, look, I think that's enough for our questions. We've got our tips, and so we do have some live questions, I believe, in the chat box. So I guess we'll get those questions. Thank you so much. And so they've been coming through thick and fast, which is absolutely fantastic. So we'll try and get through these as quick as we can for our guests. And anything that we can't answer today, we'll do our best to get back to you as soon as we can as well. So, Ankeeta, there's the first question for you from Rishi. So thank you so much for your question, Rishi. So this is quite an important question. I know some of you have mentioned that you've got stipends, but how to get, so someone's asking here, how is it to get a scholarship maybe at the University of Auckland? How would they go about potentially getting a scholarship at the university?
I have not gotten any scholarship, me personally, but then what I feel is that apart from scholarship, if you're not like, no, I need scholarship, no, there are other opportunities as well. Even my supervisor back in the time used to tell me that, no, if you're not getting a scholarship for the PhD, you can have other funding sources as well. Like for example, you got the doctoral scholarship, right? But I got, for my PhD, which I'll be starting soon, I got the industry funding. Now, industry funding is different to the doctoral scholarship. Also, as Malina is also working for part-time, we are working part-time, I'm also working part-time. So if you're not completely like, no, I need scholarship, there are other ways as well. But for scholarship, yes, we have the scholarship website at the University of Auckland website, and we have eligibility criteria. So just hop onto that and try to look into the eligibility criteria, and also you have the contact in bottom of the page. So contact them, they will guide you according to your department what scholarship suits you.
Yeah, and just to add to what you're saying there, Ankeeta, because you're absolutely spot on, is for all of our viewers who are attending today as well, who might be interested in what scholarships are available at the university, we do have that scholarships webpage. And believe it or not, the university actually gives out $15 million a year in scholarships to international students. So there are actually hundreds of scholarships up for grabs. And Rishi, I see that you're from India. We have actually launched our first ever scholarship for Indian students, which is called the India High Achievers Scholarship. We're actually giving up close to nearly $1.5 million next year to Indian students. But again, all of that information about all of those different scholarships, different eligibility criteria, you can find on the scholarships webpage. So do go on there after today and you'll find out all of the information that you need. So my next question, thank you so much, Ankeeta. So our next question is for you, Malina. And I mean, if you haven't said it enough already, is, someone here is asking, what are the cool things to do in New Zealand? And I feel like there's probably like a huge list that you could probably give here. But I guess, we've obviously spoken a lot about the North Island, and obviously there's great beaches. But I guess if there was one cool thing to do, which is close to Auckland, what would you say that is, Malina?
There's so many cool things to do.
Sorry.
Close to Auckland. So, I remember, so my dad actually came and visited me in 2018. It was really special. Surprise, we travelled around in a big camper van. What I remember he was super fascinated about was dolphins. Now, we don't have dolphins in Germany. We've got little fish. That's about it. So there's actually lots of dolphin watching you can do around Auckland. You can also actually swim, which I've done with dolphins in the South Island. But you can see them all around Auckland, actually, which is amazing. Like out on the Hauraki Gulf, like 2 hours on a boat. So you get to do the whole boat thing as well. So I think that's, just so special because it's such a representation of New Zealand as well, because there's bottlenose dolphins and we only have them in New Zealand. So yeah, that's a really, really cool thing. But also, like, there's lots of walks and beaches, lots of hills, so just be careful. But, you're never long or far away from nature or walks. So I think that's like one of the really, really cool things, especially in summer. Like, New Zealand summers are amazing. It's you're just outside all the time, and there's so many cool walks and beaches and things to do. Yeah.
Hopefully we're not too far away from that wonderful summer.
Yeah.
We're all gunning for it. I can already feel it getting warmer, which is fantastic. No, that's a good point. And I think another thing which is quite close actually, and I'm not sure if you're aware, so this might be a tip for you guys as well as our viewers who are joining in today as well. Have you heard of the Lee Marine Laboratory?
Yeah, I think so.
In a place near Goat Island, which you can go
Goat
snorkel.
Island,
Yeah, so we have our campus there.
Yeah.
So for those who are interested in marine science, that's a great place obviously to study. But if you're interested in snorkeling,
Goat Island's beautiful.
Goat Island's beautiful, and obviously that's where one of the University of Auckland campuses is as well. Thanks for that, Malina.
We are going out, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I told you I've got a big van now.
This Sunday,
We're all in the van after this.
Yeah.
We're all going. So one question for you, Bing, that's come through, and I think it's quite a poignant question actually for you, because I guess you're coming towards the end of your PhD. So how will your research make an impact to society? Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a hard question. I mean,
Well, you've got 2 minutes.
I can give you the sales pitch in which I'm doing chemistry, but more towards medicinal chemistry.
Okay.
I like the basics is that we're trying to find natural products that can be converted into drug molecules that can help combat the diseases that surround the world. That's like the simplest answer. And I think I'm doing this field is because when I was doing chemistry, I want to do something that's impactful, contribute to society. And I was able to actually do an internship at a diabetic hospital for a few months, and that's kind of what I realized, like, I want to do work in medicine, and hopefully that will help benefit, society larger. Of course, research is hard. It's not easy to, get the drug out right away. It's not like this, but you do have to, you put in the time and effort, you do what you can, and that's what I want to do. And like I've mentioned before, if I put in 100%, and if either I can help my project to push forward, or someone continue my project can make something out of it, that's all I ask for. Just if I can do that, I'll be happy with it.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's-
I love that.
No, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And I think we're going to end with that, on that wonderful note that you've given us, Bing. But I just want to thank all of our viewers who have tuned in today. And most of all, I want to thank you all here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
No worries.
for
Thank
having
you.
us.
No, and thank you for sharing your wonderful experiences and your tips. Universal charger, good
I
walking
tripped
shoes so we
up.
don't trip over.
Yeah, the hills. Oh.
Friendly guy who fixed your van, I'm sure. Hopefully you still keep in contact with. And obviously your wonderful presentation that you received before you come here as well, Bing. So, but seriously, thank you all so much. Wish you all the best with your studies and please keep in contact. And everybody who joined us here today, good luck with whatever you decide to do. Make sure you take what these guys have said to you on board. And hopefully we look forward to seeing you at the University of Auckland soon. So thank you all so much. Thank you for joining and see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All good.